So emotional blackmail is really a form of psychological manipulation. It's a form of emotional abuse as well. Someone targets the other person's emotions, usually their conscience, usually their guilt, to try to pressure them into complying with something, to do what they want, or to change their behavior, to give up their time, their resources, and so on. But what you often find with things like emotional blackmail is things can be requested, they might even be demanded, but there are other times they can just be hinted at. But they're hinted at in a way that makes it difficult for someone to say no or to do nothing about it without feeling guilty. And a term I heard used was dry begging. They would leave a lot of hints about how awful something's going to be and how they wish they had this and all that sort of thing. And it's about trying to make someone feel guilty by either not doing something or for saying no. But it can also involve threats, whether they're explicit or implicit. And these threats are to exploit the vulnerabilities in someone. Again, could be their sense of guilt. It could be the fear of looking stupid for not knowing something, or looking like the bad person for not doing something. But those threats are there to try to exploit those vulnerabilities to gain or maintain control. So what happens is the manipulative person, they create this kind of dynamic where their target feels trapped. They make it very difficult for them to say no. They could be led to believe that non-compliance might lead to negative consequences. So there could be punishment, there could be abandonment, there could be the fear of terrible things happening to them or to other people. One way or another, it's about making it very difficult for someone to say no. So I'm going to look at some of the different ways emotional blackmail can manifest to target different fears, different kinds of attachment styles even. And the first one would be like a punishment of some kind. So someone might directly threaten some kind of harm or some kind of consequence if their demands aren't met. And that could be something along the lines of, if you want to go and visit your family, that's it. We're finished. I'm done with you. I don't want to ever speak to you again. And what that is going to do is that's going to bring up a fear of loss. There's going to be a fear of instability. They're left in this difficult, uncomfortable position. Should they visit their family? Should they risk losing their friend, their partner, whoever it is that's making the threats? So there's the fear, there's a threat of consequences of some kind. There could even be the threats of being left behind. Everyone else is going to benefit. Everyone else is going to do really well. You're going to look stupid. You're going to fear being left out. But there is also someone who might threaten some kind of self-punishment, if you will. They might threaten to, harm themselves, sabotage something, anything to evoke some kind of guilt and some kind of responsibility in their target. Lead them to believe that they are responsible for their actions. Something awful is going to happen. Common example might be something like, I have no money, I'm skint, and if you don't let me borrow money, I'm just going to end up on the streets, and it'll be all your fault. Everyone's going to know about it because you had the money, you could have helped me, and you chose not to. So this is leading the victim to believe they are obligated to prevent some kind of harm. Sometimes you might even find someone who they're trying to convince you to lie for them. Okay, whatever it was, say it wasn't me, say I was with you, say you saw someone else do it or whatever. Because I might lose my job, I might get dumped, I might whatever it is. And it's leading the person to believe that they are obligated to prevent a terrible bad thing happening to the manipulator. Then there is the person who will, again, target your sense of obligation. After all I've done for you, after all I've sacrificed for you, after all I've given you, they're portraying themselves as a victim, and their suffering is the responsibility of the person that they claim that they were helping. So again, they could be looking for something. They could be looking for money, time. They could be asking to lie to them. They could be asking to do whatever it is. But it's leading you to believe that you're obligated to help them because of all of the things they claim they have done for you. Now, that being said, doesn't mean they haven't done something for you. They might have done something at some point, But they will lead you to believe that this is some kind of huge sacrifice and you are somehow forever in their debt. Just on that, they could also be talking about it when they're talking about their suffering, talking about how much pain you're causing by telling them no. You know, you're breaking my heart, but don't worry about it. I'll just sit here in silence. I'll suffer alone. You go and you speak to your family. You go and visit them. I hope you all have a great time. I'll just sit here and stare at the blank wall for the next few hours, leading you to believe that their happiness or whatever, you know, you owe them something and that you need to do something in order to make them feel better. They might promise that if you do this, if you give me that, whatever, everything's going to be wonderful. I'll be the best friend you've ever had. I'll be forever in your debt. I will be the perfect loving partner, the one you've always desired. Whenever those little gifts, those little breadcrumbs, those promises are dangled out there, what it's really doing is it's targeting, exploiting, maybe is a better word, exploiting their target's desire for positive outcomes. If I compromise just this once more, if I do just maybe this small thing, if whatever it is, then everything's going to be wonderful. That tactic would be common in what's known as hoovering, narcissistic hoovering. And that's when they're trying to entice you back into their world, trying to bring you back into their orbit. There could be a promise of an amazing holiday somewhere. There could be a promise of, they're going to finally deliver on all the things that they said they were going to deliver on. There could be offering you money to pay something off or whatever. Those little things in order to try to buy your compliance. Another form is, and again, it's a very common one. It's one that comes up a lot. Again, a lot of people have made videos about this, and that's things like the silent treatment. The silent treatment isn't always just about shutting down or stonewalling. Sometimes there can be just remarks made. Again, it's like a trail of clues that you have to follow. You're wondering what's wrong with them. Why are they withdrawn? Why are they behaving this way? And they could be saying things like, well, if you really cared about me, then you would know. You wouldn't have to ask. Okay, and you're racking your brain trying to figure out what it is either you've done wrong or what could be going on in their lives. So one way or another, there's little things being withheld. So it could be the silent treatment where there's maybe one-word answers. There could be the silent treatment, not so much one-word answers, but little vague things that you have to figure out. You have to follow this trail of clues or whatever, but they're still aimed at guilt tripping you, leading you to think you have to do something in order to win their approval back. And the last one, and it's one that I think is probably the most common in a coercive, controlling relationship, and that is where there is the fear of public opinion. What would other people think of you if they knew what you were really like? What would your friends and family think of you if they knew what you were really like? What would others think of you if they knew how mean you are and so on, if they knew how stupid you are, if they knew how selfish you are? And what this is targeting, the fear of public opinion, the fear of being rejected, leading someone to believe they have to comply. They have to do whatever it is. Otherwise, other people are going to find out what a horrible person they are. I always think that whenever you hear a threat like that from someone, what they're really saying to you is, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to tell people about the things I accuse you of. Now, it sounds very different when you put it that way, doesn't it? Or, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to tell people about the things I blame you for. It sounds very, very different. But that does target that vulnerability that we all have, the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being accepted, the fear of having our reputation tarnished, being shredded in public and so on.